Is it possible to get a tattoo like this if you're not a gang member?
No, you gotta kill.
You gotta kill to get those tattoos. How do you feel right now?
Gotta recognize that what happened to us is like that Titanic, that we were big and strong gangs, but we got hit with the iceberg.
Are you going to be here the rest of your life?
Yeah, the rest of my life. We murdered a lot of people, and this is the consequence of what we did one day. Like, try to act strong in the day and cry in the nighttime.
You cry at night?
Yeah, because we know that we're not going to get out of here. It's a maximum security prison.
What was the gang that you were a part of?
MS-13.
Meanwhile,
President Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act today. Now, a federal judge is considering a wide-reaching order to block him from deporting non-citizens under that act.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
The president took action, saying the U.S. is being invaded by the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. Earlier, a federal judge had granted a temporary restraining order barring the president from deporting 5 Venezuelans under the Alien Enemies Act.
Meanwhile,
Is it possible to get a tattoo like this if you're not a gang member?
No, you gotta kill.
You gotta kill to get those tattoos.
Meanwhile,
the challenge here is we actually don't know if a lot of these people, I don't trust the Trump administration to tell me who these people are and if they're actually gang members.
a few moments later.
Is it possible to get a tattoo like this if you're not a gang member?
No, you gotta kill.
You gotta kill to get those tattoos.
January, the Trump administration arrested over 1,200 people. ICE arrested over 1,200 people. Less than half were actually convicted criminals.
A few moments later.
I think I want to just underscore something Tom said. Yes, obviously, if you have Venezuelan gang members, that's going to be a priority for law enforcement, and it should be. But that doesn't mean that people who are here illegally or are not part of this gang or have not been convicted of a crime, that somehow that means you're fine. Like, oh yeah, nothing wrong. But you do hear this rhetoric where you have law enforcement say, oh, well, if you come illegally and you commit crimes, then we're going to go after you, but not somehow short of that. If that's the case, you have 20 million people here illegally. I don't know what the number is, but I would guarantee you the overwhelming percentage of those people have not been convicted of separate crimes since they've come. So if you say the only trigger for being deported is being convicted of a separate felony in the United States, then you are basically saying we have a de facto open border. If you don't have interior enforcement, you do not have control of your country. And so one of the reasons why we wanted to do what we do, highway patrol, all these other guys, is because they have interactions with people who are here illegally who have not been convicted of a separate crime. And oh, by the way, in the special session, we made it a crime to enter Florida illegally, and we created an enhanced felony if you're in Florida after previously being deported. That's a state level, that we can hold you accountable. So it's not true to say you haven't committed a crime if you cross the border illegally. But there needs to be routine interior enforcement. And you cannot say that people who are here illegally are scot-free up and until the time they actually commit a separate criminal offense. I want to get them out before they commit an offense against someone. Why would we want more victims?
There was no evidence that they had done anything wrong other than step foot in this country.
Well, they don't have to be criminals. This is not a prosecution.
A lot of people were caught with criminals. They were executing warrants for criminals, so you might be a gangbanger. Your buddy's sitting on the couch next to you, also illegal. Those are people that got caught up in these dragnets. So I'm not upset one bit.
I think my point about them just randomly, indiscriminately rounding up people, I have flashbacks. I'm old enough to remember when they were doing this with actual children. And according to the Human Rights Law, or the Human Rights Watch rather, there are still over 1,300 children who they never reunited with their family. We don't know where they are.
Back.
Was your daughter alone at the border?
I found a coyote and I paid for them to bring her to me. She came alone. It was just the coyote. The last time I talked to my daughter was Saturday.
A 4-year-old girl from Honduras making her way alone across the southern border. Authorities in Maverick County, Texas, raising the alarm on situations like this amid an uptick of unaccompanied minors crossing at the southern border. Authorities there encountered 100 children since Sunday, including that 4-year-old. She is one of nearly 300,000 minors who have been smuggled over the border without their families. News Nation's Jorge Ventura joins us with this exclusive interview talking to the toddler's mother. Why did she send her in the first place, and how did you find her?
Well, Marty, it was a truly heartbreaking scene, as you can see, when Texas DPS made that encounter with her. And that story really touched millions of Americans. Now, the little girl did have a note with her when she was encountered by Texas DPS with a phone number and a name. I was able to make contact with a woman who claims to be her mother, who is already in the United States. She tells me about the dangerous journey and risk that she put her own daughter through by placing her in the hands of criminal smugglers in Honduras and in Mexico.
Venezuela, mama. Venezuela? See?
A little girl, just 4 years old, smuggled across the border all alone, carrying nothing but a scrap of paper with a phone number and the name Mama Patty.
¿No vienes con tu mamá y tu papá? ¿No? ¿Venezuela? ¿Para dónde vas, mamá? ¿Dónde están?
The little girl claims her parents are already in the United States. We decided to call Mama Patty and found out why her mother left her toddler alone in the hands of human smugglers in Mexico. Patty was very emotional when I asked about her daughter. She tells me that U.S. Border Patrol officials notified her that they have her daughter in custody.
Why was your daughter alone at the border?
I found a coyote and I paid for them to bring her to me. She came alone. It was just the coyote. The last time I talked to my daughter was Saturday, and I haven't heard anything since. They told me that the coyote had already handed her over to another coyote, but I don't know anything else about her.
And ma'am, how much did you pay for her?
Well, normally, they charge $4,500 from Honduras.
Patty admits to me over the phone that she paid human smugglers in Honduras and Mexico to smuggle her 4-year-old daughter into the United States. Patty says she was unfamiliar with the smugglers who were responsible for her daughter and that they stopped answering her calls the closer her daughter was to the U.S. border. Did you know the coyotes or not?
No, I don't know anything about them. I had one of their numbers, but they're not answering me. They told me they were done with their job, delivering my daughter to immigration.
Patty says she's very happy to hear the news that her daughter is now in the United States and is waiting for federal officials to release her daughter to her in South Carolina. But these scenes of young children traveling alone on the border are becoming the new normal.
All she had was a little piece of paper with a first name and a phone number.
Why are these children here? Why is
Because their
Aragua here?
families were trying to escape incomprehensible circumstances.
Can I just say
it was not during Joe Biden's administration that let them in.
Why there's children here is because the failures of Joe Biden in letting people in.
Again, it goes back to Joe Biden.
Yes,
He's not the president right now.
He let the people in.
The fact of the
they
matter,
came in because Joe Biden failed on the border.
Okay, fine. If we want to say Joe Biden failed on the border, fine. But the fact of the matter is,
to this country, and now Donald Trump.
Joe, then Tiffany, then Dan.
I point out, Ken.
Oh, you're done? Okay.
No.
Tiffany.
Joe Biden let these people in. If she has a problem that we don't know who they are, that they were unvetted, this could have been solved in a regular immigration process where we would have seen, hey, you're a member of a gang. You can't come in. Right. Hey, you're not a member of a gang. You're welcome to come in.
Tiffany?
I don't think that is how it goes. And if we want to keep talking about the Joe Biden administration, then we can rewind time. But the fact of the matter is, when Donald Trump was in office the first time, he was a champion of separating families. And as a result of that, John, I just want to say over 1,300 children remain lost. I do not trust this administration.
We're talking about the Alien Enemies Act here. We're talking about using this wartime powers to extract what they call gang members. But there is still a human rights issue. And the way that these people are treated is completely inhumane. And the fact of the matter is, if these were white babies being stripped from their families, if these were white men with families, there would be a whole different level of humanity.
Back. These egregious and cruel conditions and policies are not accidental. Mr. Holman, during your time as acting ICE director, deterrence was the order of the day for you. The memo bears that out, exactly what you planned for. The Trump administration claimed they had no choice but to rip children from their parents because they were criminally prosecuting the parents pursuant to zero-tolerance policy. Again, and policies that the administration created and that you, Mr. Holman, accepted, enforced, and championed, as we've seen. Let me remind everyone that the Trump administration tried to ban asylum seeking and started the process of metering, which then prevents people from coming through legal ports of entry. That exacerbated the crisis. People are desperately waiting months just to get in line and be granted the inalienable rights to due process. Mr. Holman, you have said that most immigrants are, quote, not criminals other than the criminal act that they do when they enter the country illegally. That is why I think we ought to revisit decriminalizing desperation, striking sections 1325 and 1326 of Title VIII of the U.S. Code, the statutes that the administration has leveraged to separate thousands of children from their families. Mr. Holman, do you understand that the consequences of separation of many children will be lifelong trauma and carried across generations? Have we not learned from the internment of Japanese Americans? Mr. Holman, I'm a father. Do you have children? How can you possibly allow this to happen under your watch? Do you not care? Is it because these children don't look like children that are around you? I don't get it. Have you ever held a deceased child in your arms?
First of all, your comments are disgusting. I've served my country.
I've served my
country for 34 years.
I find your comments disgusting as well.
I've served my country for 34 years. And yes, I held a 5-year-old boy in my arms in back of that tractor trailer. I knelt down beside him and said a prayer for him because I knew what his last 30 minutes of his life were like. And I had a 5-year-old son at the time. What I've been trying to do my 34 years serving my nation is to save lives. So for you to sit there and insult my integrity and my love for my country and for children, that's why this whole thing needs to be fixed. And you're the member of Congress.
We agree on that.
Fix it.
We agree on that, but I disagree. But I also disagree with your characterization of immigrants as prone to criminality.
People for 3 decades on this.
Gentleman's time has expired. It's my time now.
Mr. Chairman.
It's my time.
The gentleman ripped off about 7 different questions designed to go at the character of Mr. Holman, and Mr. Holman should be given a chance to respond. It was ridiculous, the way he just rattled them all off and wouldn't let him respond to them.
Let me say this. I understand that, but first of all, I'm going to have civility in my hearings. All right? I have the floor.
I understand, and I agree with you.
I'm going to have civility. That's why I was banging, so that we could hear each person speak. I have been very courteous and very kind. Now, Mr. Holman, do you have something to say?
No one in this room has seen what I've seen in my 34-year career.
Very well.
No one has experienced what I've experienced. I've saw many dead bodies coming across this border. And you want to talk about the memo? This memo is one option to stop death. Not just about enforcing the law, stop death. If you want to legalize illegal immigration, good luck with that, because it's going to get a hell of a lot worse on that border. If you say, well, okay, from now on, there will be no consequence, no deterrence. It's not illegal to come to this country illegally. More families would come. 31% women would be raped. More children would die. We're a nation of laws. If you don't like it, sir, change it. You're the legislator. I'm the executive branch, and I've served my country honorably for 34 years. And I will not sit here and have anybody say that I don't care about children because you're not the same color as my children.
Thank you very much.